what's the most extreme test you have performed? I really love to get inspiration from other companies that are doing something extraordinary. One thing was SpaceX and their test this week. They were testing their new crew module and how it was able to escape a rocket if it was exploding. It is rocket fuel they're sitting on, and they don't want people to get hurt if something go bad with the rocket and it explodes. So what the test did was they took a rocket, put this crew module on top of it, and then they flew it up for a minute or so, and then they tried to see how the escape system worked. And this escape system is simply a bunch of rockets sitting on this crew module that just fires and should propel the space capsule away from the rocket. And once they do that, the rocket becomes too unstable, so it explodes in a giant firework. It's really spectacular to see. If you're looking at the prices of a SpaceX launch, it's about $50 million for one launch, and they can keep the cost down by reusing the rocket for a couple of times. So I would imagine they could have reused the rocket and sent it with a commercial partner and reclaimed the $50 million for this launch. But instead they wanted to do this extreme thing, exploding a rocket, and just see if everything worked out successfully. And it did. And when they've done that, they can actually start sending astronauts to the International Space Station. And I believe it's probably worth blowing up a rocket to get such a contract. But what can we learn from something like this? We are in the enterprise software space and we don't have any rockets to blow up or do anything with. So I've been thinking about two different places where we're testing. One process is to test that your backup and recovery procedure works, that you can take a copy of your SAP system and all the related system, boot them up and see how they interact, if everything works successfully. It's probably a bit cheaper. You just need to get the tapes started up, and I guess most customers would have some backup or recovery at a cloud provider. They can rent these systems for a couple of days instead of investing in a lot of new hardware. So that's a good way to test that you can actually recover if something bad happens to the company, like ransomware or whatever, a hacker attack that has caused problems at the companies. When we are talking about hack attacks, they can also be pretty expensive. One example is the Maersk liner that was attacked, and I think the price of this was about 200 to 300 million US dollars. So it definitely adds up and makes it easier. If you have done your testing and know that it works, then you can hopefully cut a couple of hours of the recovery time and be back up much faster. The second place is when we're creating your new SAP projects. This could either be installing a new ERP system, creating an additional configuration on top of it, or moving to an S4 system. A lot of times in this case, you're actually creating a lot of manual test cases, trying to run them and figure out, does everything works as we expect it to? A lot of companies are now investing in automation of this testing, and there's a lot of different approaches on how you can do this, either with the regular testing scripts or some automation that can make some of this processing a lot faster. So that is some of the concept that exists in that space. And when I've been looking at prices for testing, it mostly says around 30% of the total project cost is for testing. And that also fits well with what it costs in integration and stuff like that. Given that most big SAP implementation is probably in the range 50 to a couple of $100 million US, it's probably close to also the 30 or 50 million they will be spending on testing. So testing on these big projects is obviously huge. It's not as interesting to watch as seeing a rocket explode, but it is a lot of money being spent on either testing or test automation. If you want to do test automation of SAP PI or CPI or API management, we have created at FIGAF a tool that allows you to automate this, so it becomes a lot easier to actually manage your test automation. We will probably not set you back 50 million euros, though we would like to. Our solutions is a little cheaper than that. If you want to try it out, go to figaf.com/IoT. So what is the biggest test that you have made? What's the most complex scenario or setting you have tried to test? And did you blow up something like a rocket or something else to make this test work? So I'd like to hear your comments in the section below. Otherwise, like or share this video. I really appreciate it. Thank you.